I don't want you guys spending your entire Halloween fighting over what is the best Halloween movie because here, this episode, episode two, season two, we are going to do Halloween movies underrated, overrated. So, what we've got is 35 Halloween movies that I just came up with. I looked at some of the great lists online of Halloween movies and I put them on a wheel and I'm going to spin the wheel and we're just going to go through it. My opinion, underrated, overrated. Here we go. First one up. Clicking the wheel and it's spinning and the first one we have. Hey, here we go. Okay. The first one we have is from 2002, the movie The Ring. So I don't know if anybody remembers this movie. This one was like a pop culture phenomenon. I feel like it was such a the iconic like girl from the well with the dark hair and looks like she's been drowned and like I don't know. That's this movie. So The Ring from 2002. I'm going to say this one is underrated because I feel like this one is it just gets slept on too much where people don't like go to this as it doesn't get talked about enough. But I guess hey, that this movie's 20 years old now, so it is what it is. So The Ring, first movie up on the list, is underrated. Next movie we have, oh come on, 1984, Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, and again, here's the trick. If this is the first episode of underrated, overrated you've got from me, I do my best to give a very like concise one or the other. Rarely will I say it's properly rated or that I can't decide. So, and that's kind of the fun of this. This is one that is a little bit difficult because I want like Ghostbusters is just it is what it is. But here's what I'll say. I will actually say that Ghostbusters, the original from 1984, is underrated because I feel like the first, like this remake, I don't even know when that remake was, but the remake from just like the last couple of years, I think that one got so overhyped that people forgot about the original. So I'm going to say the original Ghostbusters from 1984 is underrated as well. Okay, so we've got two underrateds to start us off, and we're jumping into movie number three. And this one is Death Becomes Her from 1992. This was one that I actually just watched for the first time. Within the last, I guess I'd say like, I don't know, maybe I want to say like month or two, but it could be much longer than that. It could be like 6 months. Either way, I've just recently watched this one, Death Becomes Her, and it's actually, I mean, it's kind of it gives me like Beetlejuice vibes a little bit, but it's got Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, Bruce Willis, like some very big name actors and actresses. So this one, I will say, I'm going to say it's underrated, and maybe this is biased because I just had never heard of it, and it was my first time watching it, and now this movie is closing in. And yeah, it's a 30-year-old movie, but it's interesting. I don't want to give anything away, but yeah, if you haven't even heard of it, it's worth a watch. So I'll say that one's underrated. Okay, we're cruising right through this already. We are getting down to business today for this episode. Yeah, by the way, you guys, happy Halloween. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. So we're kind of getting off the ground and running for season 2 here. So next movie, 1978, you already know it's going to be Halloween. Halloween. See, and this is where it's tough, right? Because you could just say it's properly rated. It's the Halloween movie of all Halloween movies. But I'll say this. These older classics, I think, are getting extremely forgotten about. And it's almost like Halloween horror movies nowadays are getting just like oversaturated with like the religious-y, I don't know, like exorcist type movies. And like these classic storylines are kind of almost a thing of the past. So I will say Halloween from 1978 is also underrated. And I don't know if I've given a single overrated yet. So we're going to see where the wheel lands on the next one. And it has, okay, it's landed on Child's Play from 1988 with Chucky. I hate to do it, but I mean, like I said, this isn't anything that's pre-scripted. I just made up a list of a whole bunch of movies I could think of. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to say Child's Play is, well, I don't know. I mean, if you just think about how a killer doll like wreaked havoc to the point where he got a movie and then multiple movies out of it. I'm trying to talk myself into overrating this one, but we could save that for the sequels. So I'm going to go Child's Play is also underrated. We got to have appreciation for the classics, right? That's what I'm going to go with. So Child's Play is underrated. Okay, here's one that I was excited to throw out there. Is it a personal favorite of mine? It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Okay. From the year 2020, starring Adam Sandler, Hubie Halloween. This is like, since it came out 2 years ago, it's already gone towards like I should have done a top 10 list. Maybe I'll do that at the end. Maybe I will do that. I'm gonna think. I'll write that as we go, and maybe we'll put one, because Hubie Halloween, I think is great. There's a good storyline. I'll say this. The first time I watched it, though, I couldn't stand it, because if you haven't seen it, Adam Sandler does this really weird voice for his character Hubie, and I found it very irritating. But then like I found myself coming back and watching it again and again and again. So maybe it's because I'm an Adam Sandler fan. Maybe it's like, I don't know. It was a refreshing Halloween movie, because I feel like I feel like the 20 teens, there really wasn't anything great or amazing that came out. And if you guys know of one that did, definitely let me know, because I'm sure I missed it. But it was almost just like, okay, we're back to making Halloween movies. And this one's not like a horror movie necessarily. It is suspenseful at times, but I would say it's just like a classic family Halloween movie. So I'm going to say Hubie Halloween is underrated, but it's because I like it way too much. I mean, I would like to know, maybe I'll do a poll on this on Spotify. Have you seen Hubie Halloween? I'm going to do that. I'm going to make sure I do that. So let's do a poll. Have you seen it? Have you seen it? And I know a lot of you guys listen on Apple Podcasts and all that, or even right on your browser. Totally fine. But I'm going to put a poll up on Spotify, because I am curious. Have you seen Hubie Halloween? Okay. Next movie, 1993, Hocus Pocus. Oh, this one's interesting, because if it wasn't for the fact that the movie itself is really good, like 90s movies, I think, are underrated in general. Like not even just Halloween or horror movies, like movies from the 90s, I think, are underrated. When in terms of like the quality of these actors, especially like the kid actors, like they're really good. And then you couple the fact that you have good acting with, like, I don't know what you call it, but like the use of music in movies is so much more, it really feels like it's telling part of the story. And so in general, I feel like 90s movies are underrated. What gets me on Hocus Pocus, where I could possibly give it an overrated stamp, is like it's always been good, right? It's always been a great Halloween movie. Again, family friendly. It's always been a good one. But I feel like in the last like 5 years, even, it just got so overhyped, especially, and maybe just the past year because of all of the like talk over Hocus Pocus 2. Like it just seemed like the merchandise and the marketing and branding and like putting stuff on mugs and t-shirts and all this stuff almost overhyped it. But then I come back to the fact that it was just a genuinely good Halloween movie. So because of that, yeah, because of the fact that it's just a good movie, good storyline, um, original, right? Super original. I'll give Hocus Pocus underrated. Hocus Pocus is underrated. So look at that. We've already gotten through the first 7. We've got 28 left, you guys. And next one up is from 2017. Okay, 2017, It. I'm going to say it was nice to see it back, but I just couldn't buy into the hype. I really couldn't. I think if this one maybe had flown under the radar a little bit, I could have gotten on board with it. But I'm gonna go overrated. I think out of the first, what is this? This is this might be number 9 here. No, this is number 8. I'm gonna go It is overrated. So there we go. We're 9 in and I just found, or 8 in, sorry. We are 8 in and I just have our first overrated. Next movie. And I didn't even check out what year this movie came out. So let me do that right now. This is a Disney Channel original movie. Okay. Wow. Okay. This is from 2005. Oh, this is kind of cool. I'm going to read you what Wikipedia just pulled up for me. Twitches is a 2005 Disney Channel original movie based on the Twitches book series published by Scholastic Press. So everybody's favorite book fair company, Twitches. This movie basically is about twin sisters that are witches and like what they do. So I'm guessing most people listening to this have never even heard of this movie, but like I said, I'm a real sucker for Disney Channel original movies, and this was one of the ones that came out during Halloween. So Twitches to me I think because it's so unknown, I have to say it's underrated. Now, that's not necessarily saying that it's a great movie, but again, 2005 during this time, the movie stars Tia and Tamara Mowry, and they were like Disney Channel like royalty. So for them to be in a movie, it was kind of a big deal. So I don't know though. Maybe I could give it overrated because like it's probably forgotten for a reason, and I probably haven't watched it since like 2008. Yeah, probably. Underrated, overrated on Twitches. I don't know. Again, hey, here's one thing too, you guys. The fun part about this is it's not just me throwing out my opinions on these movies, but like I'm hoping there's going to be one of these movies that I talk about and you're going to be like, never heard of that, but whatever he said about it made it sound interesting enough that I want to check it out. And then hopefully you do check it out and maybe you find out that you've got a new favorite Halloween movie, or you're like, wow, he was way wrong. That totally sucks. Absolutely, that was overrated and never want to watch it again. You stop listening to me because I even mentioned that movie. It could go either way. But in this case, let's go. If I had to decide, 3, 2, 1. Twitches is overrated. Okay. Wow. All right. That one I pulled out for me. So I'll say it is what it is, I guess. All right. Moving on to the next one, you guys. The wheel's spinning. We've got 26 entries, 26 movies left. And we have landed on, wow, I didn't think we'd come to this one so quickly thereafter. Hocus Pocus 2. Hocus Pocus 2, you guys. You basically just heard me go off on my rant about The marketing and branding and merchandise from Hocus Pocus that's like come back. This, I think, is the only reason why. Hocus Pocus 2 came out this year, 2022, and I will like this is probably the easiest overrated for me. I was disappointed. To the point where like I was afraid that it was going to be extremely political and talking about like society's issues, blah, blah, blah. And of course, the movie had to have elements of that. Like there was no way in today's world that a movie was not going to try to address something to some extent. But I will say this, it was not as politically motivated as I thought. It definitely was there, which if this, you compare this with the original from 1993, you're talking almost a 30-year span. There was nothing political when the original came out in that movie. This one, they couldn't help themselves. They had to mention some things here and there, but it wasn't as saturated as I had feared. With that being said, the movie itself just wasn't good. The storyline, they could have gone further, like give it some substance. Like some random dude just makes another black flame candle and boom, now like they're back. It was just, I don't know, pretty disappointing. I get that they had to do it because come on, if the three Sanderson sisters will come back for a remake, you don't say no to that opportunity, but there could have been so much better writing than that. And then the hype just wasn't worth the almost 30-year wait. So Hocus Pocus 2, easily, without a doubt, overrated. We're moving on to the next movie. So next movie up is The Sixth Sense, 1999. I'm going to say it's underrated. And here's why. Underrated because if I say, oh, have you seen The Sixth Sense? I would guess, especially in this day and age, most people would be like, no, or never heard of it, or like, I don't know, like years ago I might. But if you say, I see dead people, somebody's going to recognize that, right? And I think because it has such a recognizable quote, that constitutes this movie being underrated. So I'm going to say The Sixth Sense is underrated, and we're going to keep on rocking here. All right. Next movie up, we have I kind of wanted this one for the way end, but we'll just go with it. All right. 1966. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Underrated because an all-time classic like this can never be overrated. Timeless, right? I feel like Hocus Pocus is a timeless movie. Charlie Brown, Halloween, It's the Great Pumpkin is a timeless movie. You look at Halloween, for instance, from, what did I say, 1974, 76, 78, whatever. That can get outdated. It can date itself. The cinematography, just the fact that it is, I don't know, the acting back then, or the way that like nowadays we look at life a lot differently, right? And I think that's why they do remakes. I think they make remakes because they want the story to apply in today's world, right? There's a reason they didn't need to remake It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown from, what are we talking about now? 40, 50, 60, almost 60 years ago. But you look at Hocus Pocus, I'm not going to say Hocus Pocus 2 was a remake because it clearly wasn't. It was a sequel. But Hocus Pocus, for instance, classic, right? Yeah, so we're going to say It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown is underrated. And on to the next. We have coming up on the wheel. Ooh, it's going to be, okay. So here, let me preface with this. I feel like movies in the 90s were real. Like I said, I'm not going to go back and say that. Movies in the 90s were good, so I just went back and said it. But and I'll get to this when we get to another movie, but there is what I feel is a resurgence of the classic Halloween movies. I don't think Scream and Hocus Pocus are classics because I saved that for like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween from the 70s and 80s. But there was kind of like a golden era. Like you have the classics from the 80s, you have a golden era in the 90s, and then we'll see when we get to one of the movies from the early, I'd say mid 2000s, where I feel like it was a little bit of a renaissance, like a rejuvenation of these Halloween movies. But we're talking about Scream from 1996, directed by Wes Craven. Again, if you listened in episode 1, this is one of my all-time faves. You talk about Halloween costumes, and you got one of the most iconic Halloween costumes of all time. You see it, and here we go back to talking about what's timeless, right? Ghostface Halloween costume is a timeless costume. And so because of that, I'm going to say Scream from 1996 is underrated. Again, it's total. I'll admit my bias on it. It's just way too good of a movie to me. So next movie up, we have, let's see which one this is. From what year? 2010. All right. So this is a remake, you guys. A remake. 2010, A Nightmare on Elm Street. This one, I don't know if I can say that this one is, let me think, underrated or overrated. So I think when most people think of A Nightmare on Elm Street, I don't think their mind goes to this 2010. I think it goes back to 84 or whenever that was. But let me say this. This is a really good remake. It's a good remake. They bring it into the 21st century. I like it. There's an element to it that, like, yes, it's in your dreams, it's in your nightmares, but like, what does it look like in the 21st century? You know, underrated or overrated? A Nightmare on Elm Street, I guess. If I'm gonna make myself say, and I will, underrated or overrated? A Nightmare on Elm Street from 2010. I'll say it's underrated because there. Let me say this: there are aspects of it that I think are maybe a bit too inappropriate for not as mature audiences, and that is unfortunate. But then again, like, this is a horror movie, right? So it should be older people. But even then, like, it just has an aspect to it that it's a little too much than I would like to see from a movie. But I can't necessarily say like, oh, it's overrated because of it, because like you get back down to it and it's like, did the remake do justice to the original? I'll say yes. So I will say A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 is underrated. Okay. For fun, if you haven't seen it, I'd say watch the original first and then go and watch the remake, because it's a really good way to like compare and again see how a story can get adapted to modern times. So here we've got 1995 movie Casper the Ghost. Is Casper underrated or overrated? I don't know. 10 years ago, I would have said overrated, but now we're looking at it and I think it could be underrated. Casper, I mean, it's a family-friendly movie, which again, if you want to watch them, here's the thing, is I think like movies like this, like, and most movies today, unless they're specifically going out there to be political and talk about, you know, pushing any type of agenda, right? I think there's a genre or a place for that. Halloween movies, and especially family movies, is not that place. Again, 90s, the 90s were kind of the golden age of movies to some degree. And you're not going to find that, politically charged narrative in Casper. So I'm going to, again, looking at it as a family movie, some fun characters in there. I will give Casper an underrated. If you guys are bored with I feel like it's been overwhelmingly underrated, but hopefully it's entertaining none the least. All right, here we go. Next one up. Let's see what year this one is. Okay, we've got another remake. Like I said, you guys, I feel like the mid to late 2000s was this like renaissance of Halloween movies. And unfortunately, you didn't see a lot of originality, except for one on this. There's a couple on this list. So I'm not going to say that. I won't say that it was a lack of originality, but there were remakes. And the nice thing about the remakes, in my opinion, was they were good. So 2009, we had the Friday the 13th remake. This one I thought was very good. I actually did I prefer this one to the original? This one I might have actually liked the remake more than the original as well. Either way, I just remember where I'm at with this one. And again, I don't think when you say Friday the 13th, I don't think people's minds go to the 2009 remake. I think it goes to the original where it should. But who knows? Maybe in 20 years, people will think Friday the 13th and they'll think the 2009 release. But again, because the remake did the original justice, I'm going to go underrated. So big surprise there, right? Maybe I should have given one-word opinions on these instead, but hey, episode's already started, so we can't change it up now. Ooh, 1999, Sleepy Hollow. Was this the one with Johnny Depp, I think? Let me double check this. Sleepy Hollow with I think it's with Johnny Depp. Sleepy Hollow. Of course, I think some rapper comes up now, so I don't know what that's all about. Yeah, okay. Christopher Walken and Johnny Depp. Film adaptation based loosely on Washington Irving's 1820 short story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Stars Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, with Miranda Richardson, Michael Gambon, Casper Van Dien, Christopher Lee, Jeffrey Jones supporting role. The plot follows police constable Ichabod Crane, sent from New York City to investigate a series of murders in the village of Sleepy Hollow by a mysterious headless horseman. I just read that off of Wikipedia. Again, I like originality. This one is a movie that definitely is not talked about. Okay. If you haven't seen it, heard it, watched it, this one's underrated. Sleepy Hollow, this is an easy one. Sleepy Hollow 1999, that's underrated. It's just not a movie that not enough people talk about, think about when they're considering watching a Halloween or Halloween genre movie. So 1984, Children of the Corn. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's creepy and spooky on a very, I don't want to say relatable level, but like familiar maybe, because you think of like rural America, right? So in that sense, like I respect it. But I'll say I don't think this is a movie that a lot of people talk about, consider, but we all know, like, we'll go to a corn maze, right? There is something creepy about a forest full of corn that you can't see past. So in that sense, thank you, Children of the Corn really kind of helped maybe fuel that fear. But I'll give it overrated. Maybe this is a wash. Maybe I'm getting lazy, but I also think I've only had like 3 overrated. So there's one. So we've got 17 left, you guys. I think we pretty much hit the halfway point. So appreciate you guys for sticking around. Next one up, Eddie Murphy. Halloween movie, Eddie Murphy. What? 2003, The Haunted Mansion. This one, it's on TV a lot. I respect it because it's a Halloween movie. I was never I've watched it a few times, but I've never been a huge fan of it. Love Eddie Murphy, but especially this time period, like as a kid, Eddie Murphy just hilarious. But I think Haunted Mansion is, I'm gonna say it's overrated. I really didn't care for, not that it was bad, but like the animation or the CGI, I just really was turned off from it, even at a young age. I guess I was a pretty big Halloween movie critic then. So I'm going to say Haunted Mansion is overrated. Next one, 1999, The Blair Witch Project. This one's underrated simply because it kind of brought about this type of, and I don't even know if I'm using this word right or if it is a word. So, I mean, somebody can like make fun of me or whatever, but it brought about this new perspective in cinematography where it was about it made it feel more real, right? 1999, this is like so far ahead of its time because there is another movie that we haven't reached yet, but there is another movie that goes this same route where it's as if you're watching actual footage, right? And so I'm going to say the Blair Witch Project is underrated because that was kind of like the, I don't know, the foreground of this type of storytelling. Okay. All right. Next up, 15 left. We've already gone through 20 of them. And the next one we have is the original 1984, A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's just way too classic. A Nightmare on Elm Street, but you could say it's overrated. You could argue that. But I mean, just hearing Elm Street, right? If you're in a town, especially if it's fall and you're just driving down a street and you drive by an Elm Street, like, come on. You're going to like, just a little tiny thought in the back of your mind. You'd be like, oh man, we're on Elm Street. Like, you know what happens there. I think because of that, though, it's got to be underrated. You can never overrate that. You can't overrate that feeling. So straightforward there. We're not going to beat a dead horse from here on out. If it is what it is, we'll say it is. 1982, Poltergeist. This is another one that I think gets overlooked. And for all of you Stranger Things fans, including myself, Poltergeist has influence on Stranger Things, okay? And the creators have expressed this, they've given their credit, but I don't think people, younger kids, like, I don't think they're going back and watching Poltergeist from 1982 to be like, oh, geez, I love Stranger Things so much. Like, if they got any inspiration from this movie, like, I should go watch it. I don't think that's happening. So I'm going to say Poltergeist from 1982 is also underrated. And I could not get through this Halloween episode without mentioning Stranger Things. Yes, you guys, the title here is Halloween Movies, Underrated, Overrated. So unfortunately, I could not include Stranger Things. All right, 1980, The Shining. Ooh, this one, I'm almost going to say that we've got to have, we're talking like Hollywood legend Jack Nicholson, right? I'm going to say The Shining is actually overrated, and here's why. For me, for a horror movie, it's a little bit drawn out. It's a little bit, excuse me. It's just a little bit drawn out and not as engaging as other movies like that keep you on the edge of your seat. And so that coupled with the fact that like The Shining, the hotel, like the big appeal or draw to like go visit, whatever. Like it was during the same era of some all-time classics, but I'm going to say it's overrated. 1981, An American Werewolf in London. If I remember right, this is supposed to be somewhat of a comedy. Like, I think that's right. In the actual category, horror comedy film. Yeah, that's right. I'll say that this one, though, is underrated simply for the fact that I just don't think a lot of people nowadays, right? Our parents' age, sure. Maybe even not then, though. But like our age and younger, I don't think enough people have heard of it, know of it. So, An American Werewolf in London, 1981. I'm gonna say we're gonna go underrated on that one. All right. 11 left. The wheel's spinning and it's landing on 19. I did not realize this movie was that old. Is that really that old? So they're saying Beetlejuice, I wrote this down in my notes, but I want to fact check myself. They're saying Beetlejuice, and I keep saying they. Beetlejuice is from 1988. Is that right? Beetlejuice, 1988. Wow, that's pretty crazy. Okay, well, directed by Tim Burton. Okay. I personally really dislike this movie. It's just I'm not a big Tim Burton fan. But you got Alec Baldwin, Winona Ryder, Michael Keaton in this. So it's not that this was a poorly produced movie. It's just super unique. If you like Tim Burton movies, you know. I'm gonna say overrated. I think it's more, yeah. I'm gonna stand behind how I feel on that. So Beetlejuice, it's overrated. Next one up, we have hit the final 10, you guys. It's gonna start getting spooky. Here we go. We have 2022. Oh, you guys, this is okay, cool. I'm glad I got to talk about this one. The Curse of Bridge Hollow, 2022. I'm guessing you probably have not heard of this one. It is from Netflix. Netflix produced. It's got, what is it? Priya Ferguson. I think that's the girl from Stranger Things. But it also has Marlon Wayans. So one of the quote Wayans brothers. It's got Kelly Rowland, Laura Lapkus. This to me, again, I am so impressed. Hubie Halloween came out 2 years ago by Netflix, and then 2 years later, Netflix brings out The Curse of Bridge Hollow. If you read the like synopsis of what this movie is, don't judge it by that. I'm going to read it right off Netflix's website. This is The Curse of Bridge Hollow, 2022, ages 13 and up, an hour, 31 minutes. A Halloween-hating dad reluctantly teams up with his teenage daughter when an evil spirit wreaks havoc by making their town's decorations come to life. Now, yes, like 100%, I read that and I was immediately like, well, that's a waste of a Halloween movie, like not watching that. And then I just ended up, I don't know if I saw something online, but like people were like, hey, this is actually not bad. And I watched it and I'm like, this is what Hocus Pocus 2 needed. It needed an actual storyline that went in depth. It explored like avenues off of the main story. It like kept you guessing, like when one thing was going on and then it bolted off to another scenario. Like I'm wondering like, okay, how's the neighbor doing now? Like, what is the neighbor doing? This movie is completely underrated. You have to watch this one. I think, does this one get political? I feel like it probably does because again, I don't think movies nowadays are not gonna like avoid that. But the fact that I'm coming away after watching this movie and I don't have that in my head, again, maybe it was because of the Hocus Pocus 2 thing, but this one, quality movie, definitely check it out. I think that's the Halloween movie of 2022. It's definitely not Hocus Pocus 2. Check out The Curse of Bridge Hollow, underrated. So, next one up, the wheel's spinning, and we have Friday the 13th. This must be the original, I think, right? Yes, 1980, the original Friday the 13th. It's fine. It's a classic. Can you really say an original is overrated? I don't think so. It's going to be underrated. Again, there's a reason that they made sequels and remakes of these classic original movies, so it's definitely underrated. This one is messed up, you guys. 2012, The Cabin in the Woods. I'm gonna just go with Overrated. Just it's fine. Don't get me wrong. It's all right if you want to get freaked out, but you're not missing anything if you skip it. All right. The Cabin in the Woods, Overrated. And we've hit lucky number 7 here. So 7 left. We're going with a remake, 2007. Again, I told you guys, the late 2000s, they were doing original movies, they were doing remakes, and the remakes were good. Halloween from 2007, the remake. Again, it had some stuff that I'm just not really a big fan to see in a movie. Just not my thing. But again, did it do justice to the original? Yes. So Halloween from 2007, the remake, I will say is underrated. Give them both a shot. That's what I like about Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street is you can watch those 3 and literally watch the original and watch the remake. And you can pick your favorite because I don't think you have to feel guilty if you like the remakes. Because for me, I genuinely like all 3 of those remakes better than I do the original. And maybe that's like an age thing, right? Maybe we're going to disagree on that simply because of what did you grow up watching, or what were you more familiar with? The ones in the 80s, ones in the 2000s, like who knows? Like I said, maybe they'll do another remake in 20 years from now and we'll have that to debate. We'll see. Next movie, 1974, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'll tell you this. When I think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think of the remake. I do not think of the 1974 original. When I do think of the 1974 original, I think it's honestly, like, it's weird, it's creepy, but it's almost comical. And so I'll say Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original from 1974, is overrated. So there you go. You got another overrated from me. Original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, overrated. Next one up we have, is the wheel going to stop on it? Yes. Edward Scissorhands from 1990. I didn't realize that one was that old too. Edward Scissorhands, again, I'm just not a Tim Burton fan. So I'm going to give it an overrated. I don't think you're missing out on anything by not watching it. So Edward Scissorhands, I'm sorry, you're overrated. Next one. This one, this series of movies, when they came out, it was almost like it felt as if there was the hype behind it as there was like Harry Potter, Twilight. That's all I can think of. But like even Hunger Games, Paranormal Activity, 2007, Paranormal Activity, it just felt like there was so much excitement to go watch this. And we talked about, what was it, 1999, the Blair Witch Project. This was the other movie I was referencing when you're talking about the way that the movie is presented to you, the perception that you're viewing this from, right? Paranormal Activity was a different, technically not different because the Blair Witch Projects had it first, but in the 2000s period, Paranormal Activity brought a type of movie out that the other Halloween horror movies couldn't touch, because this was at-home security video footage, right? You couldn't tell what was real, what was fake. If what you were watching really did happen, or like how you just didn't know. If I remember right, the budget was super small for this movie, but huge hit. Paranormal Activity 2007, that is underrated. It was way too unique, as it also used Blair Witch, but it was unique. All right. 3 left. We have got kind of all over the spectrum here. 1998, Halloween Town. Again, you guys, I'm a big Disney Channel original movie fan. Halloween Town. That's where, for me, I downloaded Disney Plus for I'm like, oh, I'm going to download it for a month so I can watch every single Disney Channel original movie I want, and then I'm done with it. And sure enough, I'm probably still paying on that subscription, but it is what it is. Here was one of the reasons why I got it. It's because I wanted to watch Halloween Town. 1998, all-time classic. Again, original, good for the whole family, had a storyline. It was engaging to watch. Is it a little cheesy? Yes, of course. But come on. It's maybe I'm too sentimental with it, but Halloween Town, underrated, just way too good. Original. Yeah. Two left, you guys. 2004, Saw. This one I feel like had like 8 or 9 sequels. But Saw from 2004, perhaps one of the top 3 most messed up movies on this entire list. I would say it'd be pretty safe there. This movie's messed up. Pretty much, even if you didn't watch it, you knew what happened in this movie. And I think because of that fact alone, you have to say that this is underrated because it was just way too like shock and awe, like messed up. I guess you could give it the argument like, well, then that's why it should be overrated, because if I don't have to watch it and I know I didn't miss anything, you said that before for different ones. So why doesn't it apply here? I just think Saw underrated. Everyone after that, it's like you're getting like, is it a money grab at that point? So yeah, we'll say Saw is underrated. And that leaves us with the last one, you guys. And this is kind of a fun one to finish on. And I'm glad that we did finish on this one. We've got another Tim Burton movie. Okay. Tim Burton, 1993, The Nightmare Before Christmas is, in fact, overrated. One of the most overrated movies. I just genuinely don't get it. Some people try to say it's a Christmas movie. Others say it's a Halloween movie. I think it's a Halloween movie. Don't even try to like, whatever. If you want to do Christmas, fine. It's overrated for Christmas. It's overrated for Halloween movies. Go back to season 1 when I did a Christmas movie underrated, overrated. And let me know like if I had The Nightmare Before Christmas on there or not, because I feel like there's a chance I could have. But yeah, no, sorry. Nightmare Before Christmas, that's overrated. It's, again, I'm not a huge big Tim Burton fan. Not my taste. Like, iconic characters, but again, that's part of why I think it's overrated, because just let them go already. Others will argue like, oh, it's timeless, like you said, like Charlie Brown and Hocus Pocus, those are timeless. Well, this would be considered timeless too, but it's overrated. If I ruined your Halloween, you guys, I don't know. There's always next year. Stay safe. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. But if there's one thing that you guys do on Halloween, I want you to remember that you always need